The rain descended in gentle, persistent sheets against the glass, casting a muted silver glow across the kitchen where Claire sat alone, stirring her chamomile and attempting to dismiss the unsettled thoughts that had been circling her mind all evening. Something about Marcus, her 17-year-old son, had been different lately, a peculiar weight in his customary cheerfulness, a silence that communicated more than words ever could. Before I unfold the rest of this night, take a second to hit like and subscribe. It really does help more than you know, and if you're drawn into stories like this, I want you here for every one of them. Also tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? Are you in a small town where the evenings fall slow and gentle, or in a city where the lights never quite go dark? Typically, he would be joking about classes, discussing his companions, or teasing her in some affectionate manner. But tonight, he seemed altered, withdrawn, almost delicate, like a sparrow that had been startled and couldn't determine where to take flight. Claire observed him from across the room, her heart constricting with a blend of concern and intuition. She waited, sipping her tea, wondering what tempest had seized her normally self-assured, bright-spirited son. Finally, after what seemed like hours but was merely minutes, Marcus's voice fractured the stillness, quiet and uncertain, nearly trembling. "Mom, can I discuss something with you?" Claire set her cup aside, her hands still warmed from the drink, and moved closer to him, kneeling beside his chair, careful to maintain a calm and welcoming tone. "Absolutely, Marcus. Whatever it is, you can share it with me." She reached out and brushed a wayward strand of hair from his forehead, her eyes searching his for any indication of what he was experiencing. He gazed at the floor, fidgeting with the edge of his sleeve, as if the words were heavy stones he wasn't certain he could lift. After a prolonged pause, his voice barely above a whisper, he confessed, I think I might be gay." Claire froze momentarily, not because she didn't accept him, but because hearing it spoken aloud made the magnitude of his struggle real, in a way that sitting silently beside him never had. Her heart raced. A surge of protective instinct and maternal devotion flooded through her. She reached for his hand gently, clasping it in hers. "Marcus, thank you for trusting me with this. I understand it isn't easy," she said softly, letting him sense her unwavering support. He looked up at her, eyes glistening with unshed tears, fear intermingled with relief, and whispered, "I don't even recognize who I am anymore, Mom. I'm terrified I won't belong. That people will criticize me." Claire drew him into an embrace, holding him close as he buried his face against her shoulder, and murmured in his ear, "You'll never have to confront this alone. We'll navigate it together." The words felt both like a vow and a shield, a warm layer of comfort against the cold uncertainty beyond the walls of their home. Yet, even as she held him, Claire experienced a tremor of apprehension herself, a knot of worry that twisted deep in her stomach, because she understood the world could be cruel and harsh, and she didn't know what obstacles her son might encounter. The rain continued tapping against the window, a soft, steady rhythm that echoed the pounding of her heart. Claire realized she couldn't let this moment pass without action. She needed to discover a way to guide him, to help him comprehend himself, and to demonstrate that being authentic to who he was didn't mean being isolated. "Marcus," she said after a while, pulling back just enough to meet his eyes. "It's acceptable to be uncertain. What you're experiencing is natural, and it's courageous to even acknowledge it. You're still you, the same person I've always known and cherished." He blinked at her, a small, fragile smile beginning to form, and she could observe the relief of being accepted slowly easing the tension in his body. "Truly?" he asked, voice small but hopeful. "Truly," she replied, squeezing his hand. "You don't need to possess all the answers immediately. No one expects that from you. All you need to do is be honest with yourself and with me." Marcus nodded slowly, his eyes shimmering with a blend of gratitude and apprehension. And for the first time in days, he seemed to breathe a bit easier. Claire felt a profound surge of love and protectiveness for him, a fierce determination to help him navigate this journey without judgment, without shame, and without fear. They remained in that embrace for several minutes, listening to the rain, letting the quiet occupy the space around them, a silent pact forming between mother and son that whatever lay ahead, they would confront it together. As they separated slightly, Marcus's hand still in hers, he admitted in a softer tone, almost to himself, "I don't even know how to inform my friends. What if they don't comprehend? What if they ridicule me?" Claire shook her head gently, brushing his hair from his forehead again, and said with quiet authority, "Then they aren't the friends you deserve. True companions will accept you for who you are, exactly as I do. And for the rest, we'll approach it one step at a time together." She smiled at him, a calm, reassuring smile that she hoped would anchor him through the storm of emotions swirling inside him. He managed a small laugh, the first genuine sound of relief breaking through the tension that had been accumulating for weeks. "Thank you, Mom," he said, his voice steadier now. I feel like I can breathe a little." Claire nodded, feeling a rush of warmth and hope. She understood the journey ahead would be challenging, that there would be moments of doubt, hurt, and fear, but she also knew that together they could face whatever came next. That night, as Marcus went to his room and Claire tidied the kitchen, she couldn't help but glance out at the rain, feeling a quiet determination settle in her heart. She would be his guide, his sanctuary, his unwavering support, and she would help him discover the courage, self-love, and happiness he deserved. Somewhere deep inside, she knew that this conversation, this confession, was the first step toward a new chapter for both of them. A chapter filled with understanding, acceptance, and the promise that no matter what the world thought, love and family would always come first. The following morning, sunlight filtered weakly through the clouds, casting a soft glow on the meadow where Claire suggested they walk, hoping the open space and fresh air would help Marcus calm the whirlwind of emotions inside him. As they strolled side by side, the crunch of fallen leaves beneath their feet seemed to echo the tension neither of them had fully expressed. Marcus kept his hands buried in his pockets, eyes fixed on the ground, shoulders rigid. Claire noticed the way he hesitated before speaking, as though the words themselves were unfamiliar territory he wasn't certain he could navigate. She maintained a gentle voice, encouraging, attempting to create a space where he felt secure enough to open up without fear or judgment, finally prompting him to speak when he muttered, "Mom, what if I'm mistaken? What if I'm just confused about my feelings for guys?" Claire smiled softly, understanding that at 17, uncertainty could feel like an ocean with no shore. "Being confused is normal, Marcus. You don't have to label yourself immediately. What matters is understanding your heart and being true to yourself." He glanced at her briefly, the vulnerability in his eyes making her heart ache. She squeezed his hand lightly, letting him know that whatever he felt, she would be there, standing by him through the uncertainty. As they continued walking, the conversation deepened. Claire asked him to share what he had been experiencing, what moments made him question himself, what thoughts kept him awake at night. Marcus spoke haltingly at first, then more freely, describing a mixture of emotions: attraction, curiosity, confusion, fear, longing. Each word made Claire realize how complex and delicate this journey was, not just for him but for both of them as mother and child, learning to navigate a new reality together. She listened carefully, never interrupting, offering small reassurances and nods, ensuring he felt heard and understood. When they reached a quiet bench beneath a towering maple tree, she suggested they sit. The weight of the conversation seemed to settle for a moment between them, the rustling of leaves and distant laughter from children at play providing a gentle, grounding backdrop. Claire retrieved her phone and began showing Marcus stories, videos, and articles of people his age who had struggled with similar questions. People who had felt isolated, uncertain, and afraid, yet eventually found acceptance, love, and happiness. Marcus's eyes widened as he watched faces of others who had been courageous enough to live authentically, realizing he was not alone in his feelings. Claire explained patiently that discovering oneself was a process, a journey that often required patience, honesty, and courage, and that sometimes the heart takes time to understand what it truly desires, and that was perfectly acceptable. He shifted in his seat, fingers tapping nervously against the bench, and admitted, what if my friends don't understand? What if they mock me? What if I lose them?" Claire's expression softened, a warm smile spreading across her face as she reached for his hand, letting her touch ground him. "Then they weren't the friends you needed to keep anyway. The people who matter will love and accept you exactly as you are. And those who don't, it's acceptable to release them because they weren't meant to be part of your journey." Marcus exhaled slowly, relief mingling with fear. For the first time that morning, a small spark of hope flickered in his eyes, the kind that tells a person that maybe, just maybe, the world isn't as frightening as it seems when you have someone who truly supports you. Claire encouraged him to think of this as a new chapter, one where mistakes could be made safely, feelings could be explored honestly, and no judgment would follow. She reminded him that it was normal to feel uncertain, to stumble, and even to change his mind as he learned more about himself. Each word she spoke planted a seed of confidence in self, acceptance in him that would grow steadily if nurtured with patience and love. They discussed emotions in general, crushes, admiration, the thrill of noticing someone's smile, the fear of being rejected. Claire shared gentle stories from her own teenage years, not to pressure him or give advice, but to show that feeling confused, longing, or vulnerable is part of growing up. Marcus listened, sometimes laughing, sometimes sighing, sometimes frowning, but always absorbing the reassurance that life was not about having all the answers at once, but about learning to navigate feelings with honesty and integrity. At one point, a small rabbit hopped past them, pausing to observe. Marcus smiled, a real, unguarded smile. Claire seized the moment to tell him that joy can be found even amidst confusion, and that it's acceptable to embrace happiness whenever it appears, that life is composed of both uncertainty and delight, and learning to accept both is part of growing stronger. The sun emerged through the clouds, casting gentle warmth on their faces. Claire suggested that they take small steps, talking openly about his feelings, meeting people who shared similar experiences, exploring hobbies, and joining communities where acceptance was the norm. Marcus nodded, understanding that she meant he didn't have to rush, that self-discovery is a journey, not a race. As they began walking back home, Claire held his hand lightly, feeling the connection between them deepen. Marcus spoke more freely, sharing thoughts he hadn't dared to voice before, about crushes, moments of fear, dreams, and hopes for the future. Claire listened, letting her heart swell with both love and determination, and knowing that being present, being patient, and being unwaveringly supportive was the finest gift she could give her son. By the time they reached the familiar pathway of their home, Marcus seemed lighter, as if a burden had been lifted. Claire knew this was only the beginning, that many challenges would still come. But she also knew that together, with honesty, love, and trust, they could face whatever lay ahead. That night, as Marcus organized his belongings in his room and Claire washed the dishes in the kitchen, both of them reflected quietly on the day, the meadow and the conversation, a sense of cautious hope settling over their hearts. Claire resolved to continue guiding him gently, helping him understand himself, and providing a safe space where mistakes were permitted, emotions were validated, and love was unconditional. Because she understood that true support is not about solving every problem, but about standing beside someone as they learn to navigate life with courage, patience, and honesty. She silently promised herself that she would never let fear, shame, or uncertainty replace love in their home. In the following weeks, Claire devoted herself to supporting Marcus in every way she could, spending their evenings together in quiet, meaningful conversations that allowed him to explore the feelings he hadn't dared to speak aloud before. They began to create a routine where honesty and understanding formed the foundation of their relationship, with Claire carefully guiding him through each question, doubt, and emotion without pressure or judgment. As they sat together on the sofa one evening, examining pages of books and watching films that portrayed young people navigating love, identity, and acceptance, Marcus slowly began to open up more about the subtle things that tugged at his heart. The moments he felt drawn to someone, the confusing thrill of noticing a boy's laugh, the way someone's eyes sparkled when they were happy. Claire listened intently, sometimes nodding, sometimes offering soft advice, always affirming that his feelings were valid, natural, and worthy of exploration. She shared gentle stories from her own youth, times when she had felt nervous, shy, or unsure about someone she liked, not to direct him, but to normalize the experience of longing, attraction, and heartbreak. Each conversation seemed to chip away at the fear he had carried for so long, replacing it with a tentative confidence that it was acceptable to feel, to question, and to hope. One evening, while cooking together in the warm, fragrant kitchen, Marcus paused mid-stir, flour dusting the countertop, and looked at her hesitantly, a flush rising in his cheeks. "Mom, what if I like someone, and they don't like me back? What if I get hurt?" Claire smiled softly, brushing a stray strand of hair from his forehead. "Heartbreak is part of life, Marcus, and it teaches us how strong we can be, how resilient our hearts are. But no matter what happens, I will always be here to help you heal, to hold your hand, and to remind you that love is still worth it." Marcus's eyes glistened with unshed tears, and a faint smile formed on his lips as he whispered, "You're really the best mom ever. I don't know what I'd do without you." Claire felt a surge of emotion so strong it took her breath away, knowing that the bond between them had grown deeper, richer, and more tender than ever before, not just as mother and son, but as two hearts navigating the delicate, confusing terrain of adolescence and self-discovery together, with love, patience, and understanding guiding every step. In the days that followed, Claire continued to encourage Marcus to explore his feelings safely, suggesting he write in a journal, create art, or even talk to trusted friends or mentors who could provide additional support and perspective. She watched with quiet pride as he began to embrace small moments of joy, sharing laughter, curiosity, and hope for the first time in weeks, feeling less isolated and more confident in himself. She reminded him gently that there was no rush to define himself, no timeline for understanding who he was, and that every feeling he experienced was part of the journey, worthy of attention, compassion, and acceptance. Marcus began to see that life didn't have to be full of fear and shame, that he could be honest, brave, and still be loved fully, without hiding any part of himself. One afternoon, while sitting together on the porch and sipping warm drinks, Marcus opened up about a boy he had noticed in class, someone kind, funny, and considerate. The way he described the subtle excitement and nervous energy that came with noticing him made Claire's heart swell with pride and tenderness, because she realized her son was learning to trust himself, to notice attraction, and to process it with a healthy curiosity rather than fear or shame. Claire encouraged him to take small steps, to let feelings emerge naturally, and to recognize that the heart often moves slowly. But each moment of honesty, self-awareness, and courage built strength that would serve him well in life. Over time, their evenings became a safe haven for Marcus, where he could laugh, cry, and dream without judgment. Claire found joy in guiding him, sharing wisdom, and witnessing his growth into a young man beginning to understand himself more fully, more tenderly, and more bravely with each passing day. She continued to emphasize the importance of patience, empathy, and self-respect in every interaction he had with others, gently reinforcing that healthy relationships are built on communication, kindness, and mutual understanding, lessons that would carry him far beyond the challenges of adolescence. As Marcus's confidence grew, Claire noticed subtle changes, a brighter smile, a lighter step, a willingness to share thoughts and feelings she hadn't seen before. She knew that these small victories were significant markers of progress, proof that her guidance, love, and unwavering support were helping him navigate the complexities of identity, attraction, and emotional growth. One evening, as they tidied up after a film, Marcus paused, looking a little nervous. "Mom, I think I'm ready to meet someone new, someone I like, someone I feel comfortable around." Claire's heart lifted with a mixture of excitement, pride, and a touch of apprehension, knowing this was a monumental step for him, a demonstration of courage, self-awareness, and trust in both himself and the support system she had worked so hard to provide. She smiled warmly, squeezing his hand. "That's wonderful, Marcus. Take your time, enjoy getting to know people, and remember, I'm always here for you." That night, after Marcus went to bed, Claire sat alone reflecting on how far he had come in just a few weeks. The openness, the self-expression, the confidence, the willingness to feel and explore without fear. She felt a deep, steady pride and relief, knowing that her presence, patience, and unwavering support had given him the courage to embrace who he truly was. She had succeeded in creating a safe, nurturing environment where love, understanding, and acceptance thrived, allowing her son to grow, to explore, and to dream without reservation. The journey was far from over, but Claire knew that with continued guidance, gentle encouragement, and unconditional love, Marcus would continue to navigate the path of self-discovery with strength, honesty, and hope. She silently promised herself that no matter the challenges, setbacks, or fears that lay ahead, she would remain his constant, his anchor, and his unwavering supporter, helping him step into a future full of possibility, self-acceptance, and the tender beginnings of young love. Knowing that every conversation, every shared moment, and every word of reassurance was a building block for the resilient, confident, and happy person he was becoming. Their bond, strengthened by trust, patience, and mutual care, would carry them both through the delicate, exciting, and sometimes painful journey of growing up together. Summer arrived with long golden days that seemed to stretch endlessly, bringing with it a sense of freedom and possibility that Marcus embraced with quiet excitement. Claire noticed a change in him that made her heart swell with pride. The hesitance and fear that had once shadowed his every step were slowly giving way to curiosity, confidence, and a willingness to explore the world around him and the feelings inside him. She knew that all the conversations, support, and patience they had shared over the past months were bearing fruit in ways both subtle and profound. He smiled more easily, laughed without restraint, carried himself with a new lightness that had been absent before. One bright afternoon, Marcus came home from a local photography workshop he had joined, a shy but radiant smile lighting up his face. Claire immediately sensed that something had shifted, that he was holding a secret of happiness he could no longer contain. When he walked into the kitchen and said, "Mom, I met someone," her heart leapt with curiosity and gentle excitement. Knowing this was a moment of courage, vulnerability, and new beginnings, She immediately offered a warm, encouraging smile, leaning closer to hear more. Marcus's cheeks turned slightly pink, and his voice trembled with nervous energy as he continued, "His name's Oliver. He's funny and kind, and he just makes me feel happy. Really happy, like I'm not alone." Claire felt a rush of relief and joy wash over her, a powerful mix of pride, love, and satisfaction that she had been there to guide him, to create a safe space for him to grow, and to help him understand that his feelings were valid, natural, and worth embracing. She embraced him tightly, whispering softly that she was so proud of him, and that happiness looked good on him. Marcus, feeling accepted and supported, relaxed into the embrace, a sense of warmth and security settling over them both. As if all the months of uncertainty, fear, and doubt had led to this moment of joy and connection. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, casting a golden glow through the windows, they sat together, sharing stories about school friends, and the moments that had made Marcus smile that day. Claire listened carefully as he described Oliver with a mixture of admiration, excitement, and cautious optimism. She noted the way his eyes sparkled when he spoke, the subtle nervous laughter that betrayed his excitement, the warmth that spread across his face whenever he thought of the boy. She realized that this was more than just a crush. It was the first authentic expression of attraction and self-confidence that Marcus had allowed himself to feel. It filled her with a profound sense of accomplishment and hope. In the days that followed, Marcus began to navigate these new feelings with curiosity and care, reaching out to Oliver in small ways, sharing moments of laughter and conversation. Claire continued to provide gentle guidance, reminding him to move at his own pace, to honor his feelings, and to communicate openly and honestly without rushing or forcing anything. She encouraged him to reflect on what happiness meant to him, to embrace the uncertainty of first feelings, and to cherish the joy of discovering someone who made his heart feel light. Claire also emphasized the importance of patience and respect in relationships, teaching Marcus that understanding someone else's emotions was as important as understanding his own, that love was not only about attraction, but also about empathy, kindness, and shared growth. Lessons he absorbed gradually, quietly, and meaningfully, which strengthened both his self-awareness and his budding confidence. As Marcus's bond with Oliver developed, he began to smile more openly at school, engage with friends with renewed warmth, and show a calm self-assurance in his daily life that had been missing before. Claire noticed that the shy, anxious boy she had once worried about was transforming into someone ready to embrace life with honesty and courage, someone willing to take risks in love, friendship, and self-expression, all while being guided by the safety net of a mother's unconditional support. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Marcus leaned against Claire's shoulder and whispered, "Mom, thank you for helping me be me. I don't know what I'd have done without you." She held him close, feeling a wave of emotion so strong it left her speechless for a moment. She whispered back that it had been her honor to guide him, to stand by him, and to witness the bravery and resilience of his heart. In that quiet moment, mother and son shared a bond deeper than words, a bond forged through love, understanding, patience, and shared experiences. A bond that would carry them through all the challenges, joys, and heartbreaks of life. Over the summer, Marcus's confidence continued to grow. He approached social situations with a newfound ease, often sharing small victories with Claire, having a meaningful conversation with a friend about feelings, noticing someone he admired without fear, expressing appreciation and kindness without hesitation. Each of these moments reinforced the lessons of courage, self-respect, and emotional intelligence she had worked so hard to instill. Claire watched with quiet pride, knowing that these were the foundations for a lifetime of healthy relationships, self-acceptance, and authentic living. As summer deepened, Marcus began planning small outings with Oliver, simple adventures that allowed them to get to know each other in safe, natural ways. He shared the details with Claire enthusiastically, from the jokes they laughed at together to the little gestures that made his heart flutter. She guided him gently, helping him navigate boundaries, emotions, and the delicate dance of first affection with wisdom, empathy, and encouragement, always reinforcing that his feelings were valid, natural, and beautiful. Claire also used this time to remind Marcus about the importance of self-care, reflection, and emotional honesty, teaching him to recognize when he felt happy, scared, excited, or overwhelmed, and how to communicate those feelings in healthy ways. Skills that would not only strengthen his budding romantic experiences, but also fortify his confidence and resilience in life overall. Marcus absorbed these lessons eagerly, applying them instinctively as he interacted with Oliver, friends, and family. By the end of summer, Marcus had grown in ways Claire had only hoped for, displaying a balance of curiosity, self-awareness, and courage that made her feel both proud and humbled. Knowing that guiding a child through identity, feelings, and first love required patience, unwavering support, and gentle wisdom. The bond they had forged, rooted in trust, honesty, and unconditional love, would serve as a lifelong foundation for his confidence, happiness, and resilience. On the final evening of summer, as they watched the sky turn shades of amber and rose, Marcus turned to Claire with a contented smile, a mix of gratitude, excitement, and serenity in his eyes. "Mom, I feel like I really know who I am now, and I'm happy with it." Claire's heart swelled with joy, relief, and pride. She embraced him tightly, whispering that she had always known he was brave and remarkable, and that no matter what paths he chose, she would always be by his side, ready to guide, support, love him unconditionally. In that embrace, mother and son shared the quiet triumph of a journey completed together. A journey of self-discovery, courage, and the tender beginnings of love connection. An understanding that would carry Marcus into the future with confidence, joy, and hope. Knowing that he was seen, accepted, and deeply cherished for exactly who he was. The lessons of patience, honesty, and love would stay with him forever, shaping the person he would continue to become and the relationships he would forge with care, empathy, and courage.